The Jewish Channel's Week in Review, what the Vice President told AIPAC, Jewish and Israeli teens join in song, and is this the best kosher pizza that money can buy? It's the Jewish news that's changing your world right now on this episode of the Week in Review. Hello and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has missed the deadline for forming a government after January's elections. He has been granted a 2-week extension by Israeli President Shimon Peres. The original deadline of March 2nd has now been extended to March 16th. As we explained after the January elections, the vote tally that resulted there shifted power away from Netanyahu and toward former news anchor Yair Lapid. Also losing out on those election results were the up-and-comers seen as representing much of the settler ideology, Naftali Bennett, and the ultra-Orthodox parties. There's a solid majority coalition that can be formed without the ultra-Orthodox, but that would mean Netanyahu's coalition partners, Lapid, Bennett, and also Tzipi Livni, would be more committed than Netanyahu both to expanding the draft of the ultra-Orthodox into the Israel Defense Forces and to moving toward the center on a pursuit of Israeli-Palestinian peace. If Netanyahu fails to form a government, that could mean new elections or the Israeli president asking another elected official, like Lapid, to try to form a government. Any of these options likely significantly diminishes the image Netanyahu has maintained, and just on the eve of one of the most significant diplomatic appointments of recent years, the visit of President Barack Obama to Israel and Palestine later in March. And on the topic of U.S.-Israel relations, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, held its annual convention in Washington, D.C. this week. The convention comes just months after the global appearance of perhaps the most visible symbol of U.S.-Israel cooperation, the Iron Dome missile defense system that shot down 84% of rockets in the November conflict between Israel and Gaza-based groups, and that has been funded in significant part by U.S. dollars. Vice President Joe Biden spoke of that.
We've invested $275 million in Iron Dome, including $70 million that the President directed to be spent last year on an urgent basis to increase the production of Iron Dome batteries and interceptors. For too long, when those sirens blared in the streets of the cities bordering Gaza, the only defense had been a bomb shelter. But late last year, Iron Dome made a difference. When Hamas rockets rained on Israel, Iron Dome shot them out of the sky, intercepting nearly 400 rockets in November alone. It was our unique partnership, Israel and the United States, that pioneered this technology and funded it. And it is in that same spirit that we're working with Israel to jointly develop new systems called Arrow and David slings, interceptors that can defeat long-range threats from Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah.
Biden also spoke of Iran's nuclear development program and reiterated a position that has been repeatedly stated by the president and other members of the Obama administration, that it will not allow Iran to develop a nuclear weapon.
So we have a shared strategic commitment. Let me make clear what that commitment is. It is to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, period. Period. End of discussion, period. Prevent, not contain, prevent. The President has flatly stated that. And as many of you in this room have heard me say, big nations can't bluff. Well, big nations can't bluff. And presidents of the United States cannot and do not bluff. And President Barack Obama is not bluffing. He is not bluffing.
Moving on to U.S.-Israel relations on matters of cultural affairs, 300 Jewish teenagers from across the United States and Israel are coming together to share a heritage of song. Christian Needon reports.
A quiet corner of the Jewish Theological Seminary's campus on the Upper West Side was filled with song this past Sunday. The Manhattan-based chapter of Hazimir, the International Jewish High School Choir, was at JTS rehearsing for its 2 upcoming 20th anniversary concerts on Sunday, March 17th at Jazz at Lincoln Center. The concerts will feature 300 Jewish teenagers from Hazimir chapters in 22 cities in the U.S. and Israel. Hazimir NYC conductor Scott Stein invited TJC to the rehearsal and talked about what makes Hazimir unique.
The point of Hazimir is to create really a global Jewish community with music as the catalyst. The music is important, but the friendships that these kids make through Hazimir, by connecting with other musical teenagers, that's the main thing.
To symbolize that connection, each Hazimir chapter rehearses the same repertoire of classical and contemporary musical selections with mostly Hebrew lyrics.
And then what we'll do is we'll come together for regional events, regional retreats and rehearsals or performances. And then the granddaddy of them all, so to speak, is this performance at Jazz at Lincoln Center, where we bring everybody from all of the Hazimir chapters from all over the country and from Israel to sing together and to work together toward really one common goal of just putting on a heck of a show.
Julie Konigsberg and Zachary Stecker are high school seniors at the Abraham Joshua Heschel School on Manhattan's Upper West Side, where they also sing in an a cappella group. Stecker described what drew him to Hazimir.
We come here every Sunday and everybody's always here and we're all singing together, and it's just a nice way to be together with people that I wouldn't otherwise meet. There are people coming from all different areas on the spectrum of Jewish observance and everything. So there are people for whom Hazimir is their only connection to Judaism, and people for who go to a Jewish school and go to a Jewish camp, and it's such a big part of their life.
This group will travel to Hudson Valley Resort a few days before the show for a long weekend of final group rehearsals with the other visiting chapters and their conductors.
Really what makes Hazimir so unique is I don't know any other group that spends a whole weekend drilling each song, making sure they're perfect and ready for the stage.
To hear some of Hazimir NYC's diverse repertoire ahead of their 20th anniversary concerts on Sunday, March 17th, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Weekend Review.
Thank you, Christian. Another kind of intercultural effort that takes place in the Jewish community is tackling popular ethnic foods that aren't regularly kosher. The quality kosher pizza has often been quite elusive. But two new kosher pizza establishments are trying to reach out to kosher connoisseurs with a mix of high quality and high prices. Meredith Gansman brought pizza experts to test their claims.
Kosher pizza doesn't have a good reputation among those who know good pizza.
Well, I feel like most kosher pizza is they're making a pizza, something that looks and feels and acts like pizza, but in reality it's kosher, which is their only prerequisite. It being pizza is almost an afterthought.
Pizza expert Scott Wiener loves pizza so much that he runs pizza tours in New York City, guiding those in seek of the perfect slice. He's never taken a tour of a kosher pizza joint though, and most would say that's with good reason. But two new kosher pizza establishments could make pizza lovers revisit the kosher pie. These kosher eateries are giving Traith Pizza some real competition. There are no shortage of pizza and kosher eateries in New York City, but for a kosher Neapolitan pizza, well then you have to come to Pizza di Solo. Neapolitan pizza is considered the original pizza, but what makes it different from your average slice?
Fluffy, soft, fresh ingredients.
That's what Pizzaiolo, or master pizza chef, Giulio Adriani, uses to set his Neapolitan pizza apart. Adriani is the chef behind a new pizza effort from the restaurateurs who've started some of the most successful high-end kosher restaurants. Pizza di Solo is their first effort at a dairy eatery. But making a real Neapolitan pizza that would stand up to kosher inspection was difficult. First, there was finding kosher-certified Caputo flour and San Marzano tomatoes, but those could be bought. When it came to finding quality kosher mozzarella, Adriani decided that if you want something done delicious, you make it yourself. After Adriani assembles his pizza, it's into a 1,000-degree oven from Naples for just 1.5 minutes. Time to dig in.
Great.
After you.
Oh, it's got such a nice texture.
Really
Yeah.
good.
Rock solid. It's nice and fluffy, so it's light, easy to chew.
But my pizza eating venture with my pizza eating expert wasn't done. I had one more place to go and more kosher pizza to eat. Bravo Pizza has been serving classic New York sliced pizza since 1985 as a non-kosher restaurant. And last February, the restaurant on Broadway went kosher. But make no mistake, in eating a Neapolitan versus New York slice, a pizza by any other name is a very different pie.
Those other places are making a higher end kind of pizza. If some people like it, which I'm sure it's great, they like it, but most of the majority of the people don't want to pay $14 for a mini pie. They want to pay $3 a slice, $3.25 a slice.
Donnie Klein, author of the blog Yeah, That's Kosher, agreed. There's no comparing these two pizzas.
They're almost in different categories, right? You have Neapolitan, which is much more of a gourmet type of food, and it's reflected in how they treat it, how they make it with the olive oil, with how they slightly burn and crisp the dough, which I think was great.
Hungry for more kosher pizza? Tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. Finally, Naomi Wolf is well known for her work in feminist writings, and she's also generated some controversy for her positions on religious attitudes towards women. Her latest book is Vagina, a New Biography. If you're wondering how a non-person gets a biography, well, Naomi Wolf showed how it could be brought to life in an in-studio interview. Here are the highlights.
Well, so you talk about how the common perception of biology, the common perception of the science of the body, how that's actually different from the actual science of the body, that what we're seeing in just kind of the popular conception of the human body is very different from what you hear when you speak to a doctor who just says it casually.
Yeah, that's a big theme of this book, and I was very surprised to discover it. You know, I kind of absorb what's in the culture. I'm interested in this issue. I've read about sexuality my whole life. But I didn't realize until I interviewed these doctors and scientists who are at the cutting edge of finding out about female arousal and desire specifically, that 90% of our conventional wisdom about women's sexuality is about 40 years out of date. It's kind of frozen in time with Masters and Johnson, and they got some things wrong. So one major example is that we're not taught about something as basic as what neuroscientists are documenting as the brain-vagina connection in women. Specifically that when a woman knows how to have pleasure, understands her body, it boosts dopamine in her brain to anticipate sexual pleasure. Dopamine goes to confidence, motivation, focus, energy, assertiveness. When she has an orgasm, it boosts opioids and oxytocin, which go to sort of bliss, the experience of bliss, and a sense of connection and trust. And so women are not taught, and men are not taught, that sex is more than just sex. Again, I'm not saying become an Orthodox Jewess. Obviously, it's not my lifestyle, but the whole Eshet Chayil thing, the prayer.
That's in Proverbs, in Mishlei, the chapter. It's traditionally said on Friday night, a woman of valor.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a fascinating neuroscientific conclusion we can bring to this. It's a practice, as I understand it, on Shabbat. Right. For the man to say the Eshet Chayil to the woman, which is basically 5 minutes of praising her. You're great. You help run the household. I recognize you. Work really hard. You take care of people.
Well, it's a whole set of kind of glorification.
Appreciations of the woman and her work. So it turns out that praise, verbal praise and appreciation, has a very profound role on a woman's autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is absolutely critical for female arousal and sexual responsiveness and heightened activation, which leads to more intense orgasms. And so when they were not stupid, because they also said make love on Shabbat.
Right, on Friday
so
night.
She's going to be more receptive
2 hours later,
after you praise her. And there's this incredible science, again, things we don't know that we're not taught, that a woman's ability to get aroused is so dependent on her autonomic nervous system response. So when the rabbi said praise her, they were inadvertently saying you're activating her autonomic nervous system, you're making her more able to want to make love with you.
And one of the few Jewish phrasings in this book it's somewhat controversial. You at one point refer to yourself as a nice Jewish girl, and this is in the context.
Is that controversial?
I think it is. And
that?
As someone who pays a lot of attention to kind of the Jewish end of feminist discussions, that there are a lot of people who feel like it's demeaning or belittling, and I thought it was really interesting to see.
The phrase is demeaning or belittling?
Yeah, but you'll see that commentary out there in the Jewish feminist discussion.
Well, it is condescending and demeaning if it's not used with some irony,
Right.
but the specific context in which I was using that, as I recall, is that I went to interview a guy named Mike Luzada, who
Right.
is a sexual healer of women in London, who has incredible outcomes for helping pre-orgasmic women become orgasmic, or helping women who have difficulties with men and sexuality just kind of bloom sexually. And I wanted to know what his secret was,
Right.
and I found out, and I
Yeah.
give the secret to readers in Vagina, which is why I'm getting all these thank you emails. But but one of the so he is a sexual healer, and I was very interested in finding out what he did, but he proposed personally showing me, and I could not go that far because I'm a nice Jewish girl and I was in a relationship. So I interviewed his clients. But yes.
You can see the full interview with Naomi Wolf under the weekly news category on the Jewish Channel On Demand on cable. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 291, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and now on Comcast Cable in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.